Well, hello everybody. So this is a live show. So if you want to check out in the chat room, you can you can ask anything there. If not, I'm just going to go right into Xcode right now, and we're going to 1 second. Screen share. I'm getting used to this thing. Here we are. Camera reception. All right. Now let's on over to Xcode, and we're going to create a new Xcode project. Now, I planned mainly trying to get you used to SpriteKit right now. Or nah, actually, I planned on going through the UI elements. So let's go into Xcode, and we're going to go into create a new Xcode project, and this will be a single view application. Now click next, and I will just name the product name of this. We'll just call this test, because basically this is going to be what we are using for pretty much the whole tutorial series. So if you want to ask me anything, that's pretty much what the point of this whole thing is. So if you want to ask me anything, just ask me in the live chat down below. Hawaii 5-0, what does that mean? All right, sorry. So if you have anything that you want inside of this tutorial, just let me know in the chat room, and I will be sure to get to that. So in here in our main.storyboard, I'm going to be going through how to set up a few UI elements. So right now, if we go down here, we're going to create we'll just create a label. So labels are fairly easy. I was hoping this whole video would be totally basic, because I'm kind of a basic lover myself. What am I saying? Okay, I like doing basic things myself. So if we could just do the basics, and I can answer that type of stuff. So if you have any questions or comments, leave it down below. Greg Development asks, hey Jared, what programming languages do you know, or are you learning other than Swift? I am learning C# at the moment, but mainly Swift is what I'm mainly doing. So if you Yeah, I hope that you understood that. Swift is what I'm mainly into right now, but other than that, I like just doing C# in Unity. Let's go. I'm just going to go back to the camera real quick. Turn off screen share. Hello. Okay. So yeah, Swift is my favorite right now because it's actually super simple. It's super easy. And if you actually like Swift, if you like any other languages, I think Swift is such a good basic learner. That's why I like doing tutorials with it. I learned Objective-C for probably about 3-4 years. And then I moved into Swift. And that's why I'm teaching this right now, because Swift was introduced last year, if you didn't know. So it's really good to actually learn that right now. So let's go back to the screen, and I'm going to look at this more. One person asks, hey Jared, do you see Swift being more widely used than Objective-C? And if so, why? Keep up the great work. Thanks. Thank you for saying that. I'm glad you think that. So I do think Swift is, I don't know, C is such a big language that it's kind of hard that C will go away. So Objective-C is Apple's way of saying it. I don't think Objective-C is ever going to go away, as most programming languages never do. Like Fortran, people are still using that. But if you are using, I don't know, I like Swift more than Objective-C. Just my opinion. All right, so if we go back into Xcode and let's go into the assistant editor, I'm going to show you how to programmatically change this label. So if we right click or control click and drag from this label, we can insert an outlet. And the name of this outlet, we will just call this label. And then inside of this, we can change it so when the view loads, we can easily say label.text is equal to whatever we want. And this is going to be a string, so you will usually say E equals open quotation mark, close quotation mark, and we're just going to go hello world, which is that. So now if we were actually to build and run this, and also constraints is another thing that I've been really into lately, because especially when you actually get into development, when you get into the square aspect ratio, it's kind of hard to get things right. So constraints is a great way to do that. And I love how Apple did it. So if you actually put in a constraint like this and you just have it in the middle, and you right click or control click and drag from the view to from the label to the view. You can center horizontally in the container or center vertically, and this will line it up in the exact position that you had it at the start. And it's going to make it like that the whole time. And I love constraints. So yeah, I like using constraints. It's a very nice way to do things and keep square aspect ratio and learning more from that square aspect ratio. So now, as you can see, it's placed in the center of your application. And if I didn't add those constraints, I'll just back up. If I didn't add those constraints, they would just be on the right side of the scene. So as you can see, we have hello world like that. Now, constraints can also be used in many other ways. So you can take this label and you can actually make it equal the width, which I thought was pretty cool, especially when you want it to be, you want the label to make sure that you're in the proper place every time. So if we had a super long text that filled up our scene, we would want it to fill all the way across the scene. If you have any recommendations on what you would like to learn, leave that in the chat room. I'm watching live right now, so just saying. Okay, so we have this, and as you can see, it fills up the whole scene because we added that constraint. Now, next thing I'm going to get into is buttons. Now, buttons they're quite simple. It's a button. So when you click on this button, you want things to happen. So you can easily just say right click or control click and drag from this button over to your view controller. We can insert an outlet, and we'll just call this button connect. And there you have it. We have our button set up, and we can call this button, and we can change the color of the background of the button or the button text if you want. So we can say button dot background color will be equal to UI color open, and that's going to be an RGB. So you can have the RGB at 1.0, 0.2, and 0.4, and the alpha will be at 1.0. I'm just pulling these numbers out of my head. So if we were actually to build and run this now, we would actually be changing the color of this button, or the background color of this button, and it looks like it's a light pink color. And now if you were to wanting to change the text color, you could easily say tint color is equal to, and then we can keep that RGB. So let's back up. We can say tint color equal to that RGB. So now if we build and run this, now we will have that button text color, whatever we set our RGB to. Greg Development asks again, just wondering what editing software do you use? I assume it's just iMovie for tutorials. Yes, I do just use iMovie for tutorials. And one review, yeah, I only use iMovie. So that's all I use for editing and not development. I only use iMovie for editing all of my videos. I use QuickTime to record my screen. I find that it actually works fairly well. You just go down here to the QuickTime player, and you can go new screen recording if you want, or a new audio recording if you're recording your voice, or a new movie recording if you want to record who you are. So if I went new movie recording, it would pull up something like this. So yeah, I like using QuickTime for all this stuff. I heard it sometimes doesn't work with other people. I'm glad that it works on my computer, but with other people, it would actually like be 15-second frames per second, and it would be kind of choppy video. So it wouldn't be too great for doing something like what I'm doing here. So let's take that down a bit. And with the constraints that there's a question, with the constraints that you are using, is that the best approach to create a universal application? Or is it possible to reorganize the iPad interface separately in main.storyboard? So yes, you can do universal applications like that. You can also just go down here, and we'll just shrink this down. We'll just delete this. And if we go into Xcode again, create a new Xcode project, go to a single view application, and we will keep our language to Swift and our devices set to universal. And we'll just call this test again. and build and run. Create and replace. And let's make this a bit bigger. We go ahead and into our main.storyboard. You will see that we have our view controller here, but there's another thing. If you go up here to your Xcode interface right here where it says test, it will also give you a few. This is your main interface. So yes, you have your main.storyboard right here. You have your devices, and if you go to devices, it will say you want to use that main.storyboard. So now if we go into our main.storyboard, we can also, I guess that's how you create universal applications. Now, Apple recently created a split view controller. So this will actually work with both. And by the way, if I lost you, I created that new part of Xcode, that new project that I just did. That was actually wrong because I was in the old way of doing things where you would actually have a separate main.storyboard for your iPad and for your iPhone, but it looks like Apple actually went universal. I haven't worked on an iPad game in a long time, so I was kind of mixed up in the old ways of doing things. So sorry about that if that made it confusing, but yes, this will definitely work with universal applications. So if you can also add a split view controller. I have not played around with this yet, but I need to. And yeah, next let's get into the segmented control. Now there's a few things you can do with segmented control. You can add more segments to it, and you can make it a bit bigger. And then with this segments, you can center that, and we can connect each of these segments just by going in here and inserting an outlet. And we'll just call this our segment controller, or if that's what you want to call it. And then if we say, we right click or control click and drag from that, and we say insert an action. And this is just going to be the name of whatever segmented controller we want. We'll just call this segmented controller action. Connect. So if we go in here, we can easily just say if a segment dot selected segment index is equal to 1, or is equal to 1. So if the selected index is equal to this one right here, because it starts at 0, 1, and then 2. So if it equals that one, then we want things to happen. Or you can say it's equal to 0, such as that. So if we built and ran that, actually nothing would happen. We can go back to that. And we can actually add a text field if you want. We can add a label and just click and drag that label into the center right here. And we will just call this our label. Oh, we'll just put this as our label, and then right click or control click and drag from that label. And we're going to insert an outlet, and this is just going to be our label. So when our selected index would be at 0, we want this to say, we want our label to say label.text equals. Now this is the first segment. Then we can also say else if a segment.selected segment index is equal to 1. Then we can also say label.text is equal to, this is the second segment. Then you can also add an else statement that will just be a default, basically. So if we say else, this will be going for our third one right there. So if we can just say else, our label dot text will be equal to hi. So if we built and ran that, you will see that we have our selected index, and if we go to our second, third, it switches accordingly. And again, we need to add constraints, and you can easily do that by right-clicking or control-clicking and dragging and centering horizontally and centering it vertically, and doing the same with our label. And this time I'm actually going to make my label equal to the width. So now if we built and ran that, we can easily just say first, second, third. And I forgot to center the text. That is why it was a bit weird. So if we built in and ran that again, you will see first, second, third, so on. So that is how you would work on that kind with a selected index or with a segmented controller. Next thing we're going to work on is our text field right down here. So we can go in here and just delete our labels and delete our outlets to the labels. So if we go down here and we can just click and drag from a text field and just put that onto our scene like so, and then right click or control click and drag from that text label, and we can just call this text input, like so. And then we can also add in a button like so. And we can add an action to this that will send our text input from our text input UI text field down to a label. So one person, Greg Development, asks again, if you know a lot about audio for YouTube or just in general, would you recommend that I get a headphone amp or audio interface rather than a new pair of good headphones? I cannot recommend anything. I just actually use my K7XX headphones from Massdrop and AKG. I unboxed them a few weeks ago or a few months ago. And yeah, I can't really recommend an audio interface as I haven't used an audio interface yet. I use the Blue Yeti microphone, which is what I'm speaking into right now for my main audio source. So now we can go down here inside of our text input and we can click on this button. So when we click on this button, we want things to happen. So we want to change the connection to an action. And the name of this, we can just call this button. So connect that. We can go down here and we're going to also add a label. So basically the whole point of this tutorial is just to go through all of these UI elements and try to show you how they all work. So now we can go to our label. We're going to right click or control click and drag. We're going to add an outlet, and this is just going to be our label, connect. And we can go to this button that we created and we can say our label will be equal to whatever we type in our UI text field that we created. And we can say equals text input dot text, or label dot text would be equal to text input dot text. So now if we built and ran this, we have our text label, and we would be able to type in this. We'll just type some random words in there, and then we click on this button. It will change that over to our label right there. I didn't add any constraints to that, but you get the idea. So now let's move on to the next thing, and that will be a slider. And a slider is kind of cool because you can actually go through you can use it for a lot of things. So if you were able to take this slider, you click and drag that over to here. We can stretch it as far as we want, and we'll just keep our slider like that big. And we'll center it, or we'll make it equal widths. We'll center it horizontally and then center it vertically. We can see that now we have this up. And if we were to right click or control click and drag from that slider, we can add a name to the slider, and we'll just call this slider, connect it. And inside of this, we would also want an action. So when our slider is moving, we could say, let's add an action to our slider. So when the event, and you can do a lot of events. So when the slider is pushed, when this slider is touched, or when anything's done, you want something to happen. So you can go event, we'll say value changed. So as this slider is being dragged, we want something to change. So inside of this, you would say our name, we'll call this slider action, connect. And now if we were to go inside of the slider action, we can add another label just so we can see what's going on. Let's add a label. And this label will be equal to our slider value. So we'll call this the outlet, and our label, we'll call this label, connect. And our slider action, so when our slider moves, we want it to equal whatever this value is in here. So we can say our label is equal to our slider. I'm sorry, our label dot text is equal to our slider dot, we'll call this current. I'm trying to think of this right. Our current I'm trying to slider.value. Sorry, it's not current, it's slider.value. That's more like it. Slider.value, and we can actually say right before our slider.value, we want to say ns string open parentheses, close the parentheses, and inside of this we want to add our quotation, open quotation mark, close quotation mark, %at, and then we want this to fill our slider value. Now we're converting our slider.value into a string, and we're going to put that inside of our label. Hopefully that worked. Let me just see if that worked correctly. Let's see what's wrong with this. Oh, we needed a format. So we needed a format right before this, so we can tell what format it's going to be in. And this will actually be a format of %i as I equals integer. So we can build and run that now. And now that that's built and ran, we can easily click and drag this. And as you'll see, it actually equals 0. So that is because our slider.currentValue is minimum of 0 and maximum of 1. So if we clicked and dragged this all the way, I can't seem to do it inside of this iOS simulator, but if we clicked and dragged it all the way, it would equal 1. But for now, that is not the case. So if you want to do this, you would actually say our slider, we can change our slider.value to a maximum value of 10. And then as you're dragging along, it'll go between 0 to 10. So if we were to click and drag this, and that did not work. Okay, that's awesome. This is hard to do live, I'm sorry. So we have our label.text is equal to this ns string of our slider.value, and we want this to be anytime our slider changes. Now our current, we could equal 1. We built and ran that. Okay, and it's not updating our slider. I mean our action. That is a bit weird. Okay, let's center this horizontally. Let's make this a bit bigger just so we know that we're not getting any mistakes with that. Okay, so let's go back here, and for some reason that did not work. Okay, so we can say label.text is equal to ns string format, and then we'll take this and say slider dot value dot description maybe. Let's try this. I know this isn't right, but we'll at least see what it is. So okay, there there is something. I don't know really how to explain this. So we have this slider. We are moving it accordingly. We can say when the view loads that our slider dot minimum value will equal 0, and our slider dot maximum value will be equal to 10. Then in our slider action, we would be able to, hopefully this works. Okay, so we have, what in the world? Okay, let's go back to this description. The description should not work. That's not right. So let's build and run this. And for some reason, it is not going through these values. Okay, this is weird. Let's go ahead, and I'm just going to cheat using Google. A slider, not changing values. This is how I would search things. And another place I would go is to Stack Overflow. Xcode 6, label change text with slider. So we want our label.text to equal, so we would more want this to say label dot, this is more like it. Okay, label dot set label dot set text Okay, let's go back. Let me look at the live chat right now. Oh wow, there is a lot of things going on. I think there is still a way to make an iPad storyboard separately. Jared, what books would you recommend to learn about Objective-C or Xcode? I can only recommend Ray Wenderlich, as his books are the only ones I really know of. So if you go to raywenderlich.com, you can check that out. There are other comments that are say, do you ever get bored? And when so, what do you do? When I get bored, I program. That is pretty much it. I play around with cameras. I watch YouTube videos. Favorite YouTube videographer right now is Devin Graham. And the slider value is a float. Try %f. Let's try that. Okay, thank you, whoever wrote that comment. So let's try this again, and we'll go back here and say %f, and let's build and run. All right, thank you, whoever wrote that comment. You guys are the best. All right. So here we are. You can add separate storyboards, and in attribute inspector changes grade development. Okay. Oh, okay. I've got to pick a fourth quarter project for a computer science class. Do you think 6 weeks, 5 days a week, 50 minutes a day is close enough to learn how to make an app? This is, you can make an app in a week. I mean, just look at these tutorials and this pretty much is, I don't know, there's tutorials everywhere on how to make apps. You can make applications in a day. You can make applications in a week. 6 weeks, that sounds like you can do that very easily to me. So you can go over to raywenderlich.com. I'll show you some websites that I use. veasoftware.com is another place. You check out his tutorials on YouTube as well, but he has a lot of tutorials done, and he's pretty awesome at them. He does parse tutorials and many other things. Now, there is also what I would recommend is stackoverflow.com. Now, you can easily sign up for stackoverflow.com. It's very simple. It's very easy, and you also get you get answers pretty quick because these people are trying to find answers. I've asked a few questions on here, and they're really good. And also, if you want projects that are already done and you want to look at them, you can go to github.com. This also works, and you can look up some projects that are already done. I have actually a project that's on here. If you want to get it, I'll search Architap. Maybe that'll come up. Users, here we are, Architap. I have one contribution, and that is my YouTube channel app. So if you want to go to the GitHub site, you can do that and go download my YouTube channel app, which basically allows you to add your own YouTube channel app, or your own YouTube channel inside of your application. When you make a universal app, do you need to make a picture for every size? Yes, you do. You need to, or technically, what picture are you talking about? Are you talking a launch screen? Because if you're doing a launch screen, yes, you need, for submitting an app to the App Store, you need different icons for everything, and you need different launch screen for everything. Actually, icons is always going to be a 1024 by 1024 application, but you want to create it along with your website. So if you go over here to your test, you would be able to, or actually your images.xc assets, and you go into your app icon, you will have your iPhone app and your iPad app. And one tool that I would recommend using is actually, let me see where it is. The Prepo, app Prepo. You can put your own 1024 by 1024 app icon image, put it in here, and it'll create everything for your universal application, and it works beautifully. I love it. Go download it. Not a sponsor. Okay. There is also, Oh, hello, Russia. How's it going? There is another comment that I read earlier. Can't seem to find it. All right, let's go back. Let's go over to the me.storyboard, and we're going to now. So thank you, whoever did that image thing right here, and we can easily. Yeah, thank you, whoever put out that float recommendation. So now let's actually continue on and use. We'll say switches. I actually did a tutorial yesterday, or I uploaded it this morning on how to create themes for Xcode. It's a very nice thing to know if you ever want people to customize. There are a couple more questions. Is it longer to create an app for the notification center? It is a bit. I actually created a tutorial on how to create notifications. It's not that hard. Yeah, I don't really know anything more than that. So let's continue on with the switch. You can easily right-click or control-click and drag from the switch over to your view controller. And you can call this switch switch. And when the switch, you can, someone actually wrote a comment on my video that I uploaded earlier. And they were wondering, why don't you just have one switch for a black and dark and a white theme, or and a light theme? The reason I didn't do that is because we're going to add a third theme later on, and I think that would make things a bit confusing for people. So if we go back down into our view to load, we can say our switch dot on is equal to false. So we're turning our switch on equal to false. Then we can also say right-click or control-click and drag from our switch. And when it's clicked, we want an action to happen. And with this action, we can easily, we'll just call this our switch action connect. And then we can add let's add a label onto our scene. And when we want this switched, we can right-click or control-click and drag from that label over to up here. And we'll just call this label as the outlet. Then we go down here to your switch action, and we can change our label accordingly. So when our switch is turned on, we would want, or if we could say if switch dot on is equal to true. So when it's turned on, we want things to happen. So we would want our label to be set, label.text to be set to on. And then, or equal to on. There we are. And then you can also add the else statement that will change our label.text equal to off. Oh wow, there were a lot more comments than I thought there were. I want to make an app such that when you zoom in, shows more information. It's like a map app kind of. Any suggestions how I can do it? I'm working on a PDF application that's in the background. I'm working on a PDF application right now that it will actually be able to zoom in and zoom out on an image. I think that might be what you're going for, so you can zoom in and zoom out of an image. I hope that's what you're talking about. Jared, can we have this kind of live chat once in a month so we can all discuss more of Swift and Xcode? Maybe. Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's plan on it. I'll think about it. You can also go to when did you start? When did you start programming for iOS? I started programming when I was here. I'll turn off our screen share and talk. So I started programming when I was, I think, about 12, and that was mainly my parents that got me into it. My dad's an engineer, so he works with programming a lot, and he wanted me to get into it. And also my mom said, before you play games, you must learn how to program an app. So that's how I got into iOS application development. I first started off actually on a dinosaur computer. It was very, very slow. It was terrible. But I first started off with a dinosaur computer and learned how to make my first web browser in C++. I think that was my first application I created. I think I might have been a hello world, but I think I really wanted to know actually how to make an application for searching the web, and it was super cool to me. So I learned how to do that, and then we got our first MacBook Pro when I was, I think, 14, and ever since then I don't know, I learned more about Xcode, and I got into more Xcode related projects. So yeah, that is when I learned how to program. Okay. Is it hard to make an algorithm without any programming skills? Is it hard to make an algorithm without any programming skills? It's math. I mean, right? Yeah, there's someone right below you said it's math. It's an algorithm, can be anything. If you want an algorithm, saying like a function, if that's what you're meaning, like when you actually create a function, it's very easy. Let's go down here. Oh, I'm watching myself on here, trying to watch myself. So I just realized my head was way down. Okay, let's go to screen share again, and I'm going to share the screen, and we will get cameraception again. So there we are. Okay, so now we have our switch, and now if we were to build and run this and turn our switch on and off, we would actually be able to get our label.txt to turn on by clicking our switch on and off. That is how a switch works. It's kind of easy. Do I need a programming book to learn programming, or can I just watch videos on YouTube? I have a book, but I read barely any of it. So yes, YouTube and just searching applications via Google is the main way I have learned things, and it's probably my favorite way of doing things because you actually get to interact a bit more and follow along. I'm off to college next year. I'm off to JP Stir says I'm off to college next year for computer science, so I'm sure I'll have plenty of time for Objective-C. Thanks for all your help. Thank you for watching. Do you have any knowledge in the area of SQL databases for iOS? I do not. I've worked with Parse and barely anything of CloudKit. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've used. I like Parse a bit better because it's multi-platform. I really haven't used multi-platform, but if I need to use multi-platform, it's better for me. Okay, now let's go down here and let's continue on. Activity indicator is kind of a hard thing to show, but I guess I can show that right now. We can add this activity, and we'll use it with a switch, actually. We can turn our activity indicator on and off. It's kind of hard to show how that would be done without doing a huge project. So if we go into if our switch.on equals true, we can change our activity indicator by right-clicking or control-clicking and dragging on this activity indicator, inserting an outlet, and we'll just call this activity.connect. UI indicator. Could not find any information for the class named label. Okay, first let's delete this label that we have right here. And now let's right-click or control-click and drag, and we'll just call this activity connect. And now we have our variable for activity. And if we go down here, if our switch.on is equal to true, we can turn our activity not dot on. Let's go over here, click on our activity indicator dot animating. This is more of what we want. Dot animating. It's fine. There was an easier way to do this. Okay, so we can say activity dot activated. Wow. Okay. What is your best smartphone for 2014? HTC One M8. It's the only iPhone. It's the only phone I own. Let me try figuring out how to turn this activity indicator on and off. Actually, we can do this by just saying activity.hidden equals true. And you can do this just by saying that. And we can say activity.hidden equals false. So when we click our switch off, I guess we wanted to turn it on. I programmed that backwards. So when we turn it on, it comes in and out. We want this to animate though. Let's see if I can go down here. Let's click on our activity indicator and we'll say animating. So it will be animating anytime we want this to be on. This probably is not the best way to do things, but we have our activity indicator. Click on our switch and we can turn our activity indicator on and off, like so. What's your take on the Apple Watch and do you plan to develop more for it? Here, I'll switch over to the camera. My take on the Apple Watch, I don't like it. It's because it's a first generation thing and I really don't find the need for having something connected to my wrist when I could just pull out my phone. I don't need to be that connected to society. So more like I need to be there in real life and not just checking my watch every minute for if you guys have posted a comment or not. I do that enough with my phone and I don't want it strapped to my wrist knowing that I would get a notification every minute, which would be bad. To create WhatsApp or Snapchat, do you use Swift or Objective-C? I will be showing you how to use, I'll probably be showing you how to do it with Swift, but with Objective-C, it would also work. I don't know, but Apple's migrating over to Swift. So if you want to develop an app, I'd most likely recommend doing it in Swift just so you can be updated with Apple. Just my recommendation. How do you market your apps? Submitting it, check out my last few tutorials ago. I did how to submit your application with Swift and Xcode. That was a very nice tutorial. If that's how I put my app on the market, and that's what I know. How do you make a social app? You can use parse.com. They actually have a, let's go over there right now, or switch to the screen share. So inside of this parse, you can go to parse.com right now. This is, of course, if you're wanting to use parse, but if you look into their products that they have, they actually, I'll log in right now. Log in. Okay, what is my password? I can't remember my password right now. Darn. Log in with Google, maybe. Oh, yeah, I did this. Okay. So now if we logged in with Google inside of Parse, we can say, I can't find it. Okay, well, if you were into Parse, you can actually go to Parse Core or Parse Analytics, and they will actually have this type of social app for you. They actually have a pre-built application that you can roam their source code and see how it all works. Plus, they also have a written tutorial on how it works. You can go into, let me see if it's around here. They have tutorials for everything, so you can learn about data. Here we are, AnyPic. This is what I was looking for. So this is like an Instagram type application that you can create. You can read the tutorial. I'm not going to read it to you, but here we are. You can just go through this whole tutorial and learn all about creating your own social application. I will be doing a tutorial on how to create kind of a social app, but I need to learn a bit more before I do that. Let me see if there's any more comments. What's so special about social apps? Do you need servers? Yes, you need servers just because you need to store the data somewhere. You need to store the users somewhere and allow those users to be logged in and out. Do you think it's possible to create a new big social app? I mean, yes, definitely. It's definitely possible. It's hard in this time of day, in this day of age, because it's such a, how do you say that? It's such a very concentrated amount of, or a saturated market to get into. There are so many social applications, but you know, Snapchat I think was released last year, and that's like #1 every day. How are your apps doing in the market? Not bad. I don't know. I'm more interested in YouTube because with YouTube I actually get interaction between people, and I'm learning at the moment. I'm learning how to get these visuals looking nice, and I think with my applications, the main reason I'm not doing good with them is because I didn't get them to look nice. So I'm learning how to get things to look nice so I can do better with them. Let's go ahead and continue on. That was our activity indicator. Now we can add a progress view. So let's go ahead and delete all of these that we have right here. Get out of our view did load. We can get out of our switch action, and let's add a progress view. And what we want to do with this progress view is we will take this and we will add progress to this every 0.001 seconds. And this is fairly easy to do. So you just right click or control click and drag, and you can say equal widths. We'll make it center horizontally and center vertically. Then we go into our view did load, and we're going to create a timer. And we can say var timer is equal to ns timer, open parentheses, and this is going to be of the time interval, and right here. So we will have time interval, and the time interval will be 0.01. Our target, we will just call this, we'll call our target self, meaning that we're calling our view controller right up here. Our selector, we will actually call this a selector, open parentheses, close parentheses. Basically what the selector means is we're going to call a function. So let's create that function right now and just say func. We'll call this add. And now we have our add, and we can add progress to our progress view. So inside of our progress view, we can actually say our progress dot, or wait, we didn't call our progress. Okay, so right click or control click and drag from our progress view. We're going to insert an outlet, and this is going to be our progress UI progress view. And if we go down here to our view did load, we can say progress dot max or dot progress. So here, I'm trying to figure things out a little bit, and there are a lot more questions. Greetings from Italy. Greetings from America. Hello for watching. Can I use my own server? I have never used my own server, so I cannot say that. Where can I find good Objective-C or Swift programmers to start project? I don't know, hired.com I think is one place, or you can go to some other websites like hired.com or whatever it's called. I can't think of it right now. Okay, so now let's continue on with our timer. I'm getting off of things. Okay, and our user info, we will require no user info. Repeat, true. We are going to repeat every once in a while. And inside of this timer, we are going to call this add function. So we'll add progress accordingly. Say progress.progress will be equal to or plus equals 0.1. So every time we're going to add 0.1 progress to our progress view after this timer is called. Now that didn't work. Okay, so this is programming. This is a lot of trial and error with things. I'm not a pro programmer. A lot of people tell me I am, but I'm not. I'm very much a beginner. So inside of our view did load, so we have our timer, we have our progress. We're changing the progress by 0.1. Why would that not be working? If you have any suggestions, tell me down in the comment section. Now, we are adding progress. We go progress.progress plus equals 0.1. We have this progress. We change our progress accordingly right there. So that would make sense. Oh, that's right. We are not selecting anything. That's why that would not be working. It's stupid. All right. So our selector will be add, as we called our function right down here. Now let's build and run. And now we will be calling this add every now and then. That did not work. Okay, so we have this timer, and for some reason it's not repeating. So in order to get it to repeat, we can say, we'll actually take this timer right here and put it outside. And my mouse just quit on me. That was very nice. Okay, so now if we go into this timer right here, we'll just say var timer equals ns timer. Then go down here and we'll erase this var. And now this timer is going to be called multiple, not yet. Go down here inside of your add, and we're going to call our timer. We're going to say timer. We're just going to copy and paste whatever we put inside of our timer right here. And let's build and run. And now this timer is going to be called over and over again every 0.01 seconds. Ooh, there was a problem. Now, I thought that would work. There was a problem. I really don't like it when it gives me this kind of code. Okay, I dealt with this last week. I thought that was how I fixed it. Let's check the comments, see if there's anything. I cannot find anything. Awesome. Okay, let's look online. This is how programming works. Let's look online. We can go to, okay, so timer is not calling over and over again. Swift Xcode. So run for loop using an NS timer in Swift. This is like it. So when our timer loads, we want this to run in a loop. Now, I don't understand why it's not going again. Oh man, my parents are home. Okay, we might have to be changing the course of things. Let's go ahead, go into our main.storyboard. And we are going to, I can't figure out this progress. I will add a tutorial on how to do this later on. Sorry guys, I can't do it. Anyway, my parents are home. I have to end this right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will try doing this again, and I will see you in the next one.